Welcome to Badass Breakthrough. My name is Bridget Bennett. I am your host. I am a high conflict custody and divorce coach, fellow survivor of domestic abuse, and I am here to help you on your way. This show is for those who have found their way navigating co-parenting with a high conflict or narcissistic person, battling it out in family court, feeling like that journey is never going to end, maybe discovering that they are a product of a narcissistic family, and overall for those that are trying to rebuild their life after enduring abuse, whether it was through a relationship or marriage. You're in the right place. This show is for you. So let's get started on this journey together. Hello to all of you. I hope that you are doing phenomenally well this morning. It is so amazing to have you all back with me and for me to be able to communicate with all of you on a topic that I know I get questions about over and over, right? And oftentimes it's that question that sits in your head and you overthink. So, without further ado, I want to address something, right? Of how most people are communicating with their high conflict co-parent in their case is actually wrong, right? And you guys know that I talk about communication often as well as documentation, but sometimes the way that people are communicating is actually hurting their case, right? Like I will probably do numerous communications on this, podcast episodes on this, trainings on this, because it is so very important that we learn what we're doing that is wrong or how we could improve further, right? So, I want to challenge something today that almost every single person in the community does, right? Or the community believes, rather. We often believe that the more that we communicate with our ex, the more documentation we are building for our case. And I am guilty of the same, right? I did this a long time ago or wrong. That mindset, that belief is incorrect. And the belief itself is probably one of the most expensive mistakes that I see protective parents make, right? So we're talking about lengthy messages, more words. They're thinking more words is better, and they've got an aha, I got you moment because they're telling their ex what they've done wrong, how they violated the order. It's actually not beneficial. So your communication platform, which I hope you're using Talking Parents, it is my preferred one. It is not your documentation system. These are two separate things. The moment that we start to understand the distinction between communication, what we're communicating, and documentation, our entire strategy and mindset really helps us shift, right? It's going to change over time. So, communicating, we want to communicate things about logistics for the children, right? Exchange times, pick up, drop off, all of that, extracurricular activities, education, health, medical stuff. That's really about it. Okay. That's really about it. We're not going to tell them that they're wrong or blame them for something, right? We're going to avoid the what I call the triple A's of threats. This is actually referred to by Bill Eddy, who came up with BIFF. And it's we're not going to provide any advice. We're not going to give any admonishments, right? Like you're wrong, that's an admonishment. And we're not going to apologize in our communication. Doing any of these three things will be used against you. It will be spun, the narrative will be spun that you are controlling, that you are high conflict, that you are the problem. Okay. So today, I really want to focus our conversation on communication with a high conflict co parent and like the purpose of that communication. What is it for? I've highlighted on it. And we're going to also examine how to stop handing your ex ammunition every single time that you're opening Talking Parents. All right. So I'm going to give you some tips and strategies to help you with your communication and things that, again, you can instantly implement starting today. The first point, most people think communication does certain things for them. Okay. Most people think that the communication is going to help them build their case. Again, we know from prior conversations that that is not the case. Right. So, I hear constantly over and over again of I'm keeping everything in writing. I wanted to put it in writing so that I have a paper trail. Okay, I got it. I wanted to have evidence. I wanted to document. I'm responding to everything so that the judge, can see how unreasonable they are and I'm documenting their behavior through our messages. Here's the truth. Your ex's behavior in those messages, that's not your documentation, that's something separate. It is noise. It's like you getting in the weeds until you organize it. Maybe we can categorize it and present it so that it tells a story correctly for us. Okay, so a few things. When we want to over communicate things to our ex, we are handing them a lot of words that they can twist the narrative, they can twist what we're saying, they're going to use it against us. We want to stop doing that immediately. While you are focused on, trying to capture their bad behavior, you are simultaneously creating a record of your own that may be working actually against you, right? So, like when we're trying to capture our co parent's poor behavior, there's great tools for that, right? We can later hire a service such as Pattern Viewer to analyze our written co parent communication and to figure out who's driving the conflict, right? Who's the problem? What is this tagged behavior that's coming up over and over again? Okay. And they are experts at doing so. You don't need to prove that they're bad in your messages. You just need to focus on your own communication style. Sometimes the less words that we give a high conflict person, this is what I see. I see that they start to spiral. They start to lose it, right? When you're like friendly because you're using BIFF, friendly does not mean that you're letting them walk all over you. Okay. But when you're friendly, they're like, "What is happening? Why are they acting so differently all of a sudden?" Right? They're gonna start to spiral. They're gonna start to overthink. Then they're gonna go through their wheelhouse of what are the party tricks that I can pull out of my hat to make them react? What are the things that I can do that's going to get a rise out of them? Be mindful of that's going to start. The more that we start to improve our communication, the better it gets over time. Every single message, right, that we have in our co parenting communication is helpful. It's helpful information for us. The defensive responses, okay, are not going to help you. When we have an over explained message, it's not going to help you. Every single time that you're sitting there thinking, shit, I need to justify myself in, this decision. I need to show that I'm a good mom. I need to show them that I am doing good. Because if not, a judge is going to believe that I'm bad, right? And so then you go and you argue these points. That's the wrong thing to do. You were falling right into the game. You are playing into their hand. They want you to do that. And then we have like these emotional reactions, right? And I often see your emotional reactions before you do, right? So you are like, no, I'm not emotional here. I'm really doing well. I'm doing BIFF. I'm doing this. But then I look at some of your all's co parenting communication and you're sending 4 messages a day, 5 messages a day. Why are you communicating that much with a high conflict person? You're putting all these things in writing and it's not always helpful to you. And actually, when we have more communication, it plays into this narrative that judges are like, well, both of y'all are the problem. I seriously heard an attorney, I read a transcript from a hearing in family court, and this attorney said, well, Judge, it's obvious that these parties don't know how to communicate. Well, that's not what the case was about. But again, there's a lot of back and forth. We are not just documenting for our ex, right? Like the documentation is separate from the communication. You document these things for yourself. And your documentation, whether you're using my documentation kit, the spreadsheet in the kit, right? That is not the evidence that you are submitting to a judge in family court. That's not what you're going to give to your attorney. That is the building blocks. It's just like your rough draft, your brainstorming of how to put the story together, right? Because there's so much chaos, there's so much conflict. How can we tell the story? How can we streamline it? Most people are really still focused on putting their documentation in writing, in communication. Want to invite you to pull yourself out of that habit. Now, I've said this before, but you guys fall into an over communication trap. How many of us are guilty of over explaining ourselves, oversharing, over communicating, right? I am. I've done it before. I've done it many times. But I now recognize that, I don't need to do that. Okay. It is the most common mistake I feel that I see, and I know it comes from a good place, right? Like, you want to be thorough, you wanna make sure that, the truth is in your message, that all of the information is there, that you're sharing things, that you wanna be transparent. You want the record to show that, you have definitely been trying, and you're trying to co-parent with this person. You're trying to share the information. Stop trying to prove to anyone that you're a good parent, okay? What over communication actually shows a judge and legal professionals is that you cannot maintain boundaries, that you are seeking kind of an engagement from your ex, right? And you are not as emotionally regulated as you could be, right? When we over communicate, we often like kind of slightly get off path of keeping our communication child focused and brief, right? So when I say brief, I'm talking about three, if you must, five sentences, no more than that. You can probably send everything you need in three sentences to your ex. Try it. You'll find that I'm right. Not talking run on sentences now. You get to the point. Don't go through their messages thinking that you need to rebuttal all of the things that they're saying. Oh, I didn't answer that. I didn't answer the other. I did that once before. Okay. Like, it's kind of embarrassing to say at this point, but there was a time where my ex and I exchanged emails. We were communicating via email before talking parents. And I copied and pasted his email in my reply, and then I went through in another color and I wrote my responses to all of the accusations. You know how long my messages were? They were terrible. They were like 2 pages long between his message and mine. It was insane. And I played the game. I fell into the trap. High conflict people thrive on over communication. You're giving them information. The messages that you send is an opportunity for them to respond in a way that pulls you in deeper. They are trying to hoover you back in. They're pulling on your rope, being like, come here. I know you want to talk to me. I know you want this. No, 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 no. Don't get pulled back in. Every single explanation that you offer, you are opening the door for them to walk right through. You are inviting them back in. Stop doing it. I want you to look at the last message that you wrote to your high conflict ex. Were you over explaining yourself? Did you send more than five sentences? Did you try to prove to them that they were wrong? Did you just want them to understand and see your side of things? The goal of communication with a high conflict person is not to resolve the conflict, okay? Because you're not going to resolve the conflict with them. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but that's not what you're going to accomplish. Get the thought out of your mind. You're also not going to get them to agree with you on anything. Have you guys ever agreed? I talked on this before. I talked about parenting plans and vague language, right? They will never let you resolve it. They're one uppers. It has to be their way. They have to win. Gotta let them think that they are. The goal of our communication is to create, a clean, minimal amount of communication that is strictly child focused. It is child centered. Because what does this show family court? That we are the reasonable, responsible parent. Less is always more. Always. All right. Jade is killing your case. So, what does JADE stand for? If you're new here, JADE stands for justify, argue, defend, explain. There's a lot of acronyms, right, in this realm of high conflict custody. JADE is one of them that you should learn. It is the default mode of almost every single protective parent that I've ever worked with. They're justifying, they're arguing, they're defending themselves, they're over explaining, they're explaining anything. So why do we jade? Well, because we are reasonable people, right? Who believe that if we just explain ourselves just so clearly enough the other person is going to understand because they're also a reasonable person. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding. That's not the case with a high conflict person. When we're dealing with people that are narcissistic, right? Cluster B personality disorders, but primarily narcissist, they know what you're saying. The person that you're dealing with, the whole point of their game is to keep you confused, right? So if you're like, did they understand what I'm saying? Did they not? And you start over explaining and you start defending yourself and justifying things, right? It's exactly what they wanted. It's like giving them supply. If we've been in these situations, right? We've been in these relationships before we separated and got divorced. And we were conditioned by years of abuse to over explain as a survival mechanism because we feel like, silence therefore makes us look guilty. I'm going to share with you a story. When I was a little girl and I grew up in a narcissistic family household, my stepmother, who was also very abusive to myself and my brothers, wanted us to admit to lying when we hadn't. Okay. So she had said at one point, I remember we were like in a cabin in the mountains and it was over a roll of toilet paper. It's probably like 7, 8 years old. And somebody changed the roll of toilet paper in the bathroom. None of us kids remembered who had done it or why or like anything, right? But the point was, she wanted to humiliate one of us. The toilet paper, instead of being forward facing, was back facing when it was replaced. Stupidest fucking thing ever, right? So we all told my stepmother, like, I don't know who did it. It wasn't me. I don't know who did it. Who knows? Maybe it was one of her kids. Maybe it was one of her grandkids. I don't know if she had grandkids. I don't fucking know. But she wanted one of us to take the blame, to take the fall, or to rat out one of our siblings and made us all sleep together on the floor in the living room and told us she used the Bible. Like, this is why I'm not a Christian, but she used the Bible as a way to intimidate us and talked about a story. I can't remember the person, but a woman who was turned into a pillar of salt by God. And for us lying, we too would turn into a fucking pillar of salt by God. Now, I wasn't lying. To the best of my knowledge, my siblings were not lying. I had an older brother and a younger brother. They were not lying, right? But we all were like confused. Oh my God, are we going to turn into a pillar of salt? Like, there was a lot of gaslighting going on. Okay. But again, what was happening? It was done by design for us to then over explain things in the future. If we forgot something, there was an over explanation. Hey, I'm so sorry I forgot this. I was running late with my homework and oh, I'm sorry. I had to vacuum the house every single morning before I went to school. And then every single day when I got home from school, I had a long list of chores. Sorry, I didn't, you know, v- I I didn't vacuum the right way. What the fuck was the right way when you're 7, right? Before going to school. I was in a hurry. I didn't want to miss the bus. Okay, well, you're gonna miss the bus was the response. Okay. And I had to do it again, and then I had to walk to school. Right. So again, what happened in my brain? I can't talk about your story. I can talk about mine. I was conditioned to over explain, to justify myself. And I remember saying to my stepmother one day with her and my stepsister, I said, you are determined to make us be the bad guy, but we're not the bad guy. And I must have been it was under the age of 10, I still lived in Florida at the time, like, I was a young kid, and I spoke out. So much so about, shitty behavior that my grandfather said that one day my mouth would get me in trouble, right? Yeah, well, here I am, right? I'm the black sheep, I am the one that spoke out about my family and their behavior, right? But, again, I'm sharing with you a part of my life and a part of my childhood to help provide context and understanding as to the long term conditioning that many of us have endured. And sometimes we're not cognizant of it yet. In that scenario, with the toilet paper and feeling like I was gonna turn into a pillar of fucking salt because I'm like, "I'm not lying, but what if I am? What if I really did change it and I just forgot?" I went under this assumption that, silence would therefore make me look guilty, and I didn't wanna be silent, right? Because guilty people are quiet. That's not right. That's not true. What does Jade look like in our messages, right? It makes you look uncertain when we're justifying, arguing, defending, explaining. It makes you look like you need their approval and validation. Go back to the vacuuming the house story in the morning, right? Like, "Hey, I'm so sorry that I didn't what was I looking for?" Like, acceptance, approval, validation, like, "Hey, it's okay, no worries," right? When any reasonable person would have understood that it was okay, like, "It's no big deal, you're just a kid. You did a great job, thank you so much for helping." I never got that. So, we give them content to argue with us. It extends our conversations far beyond where it needed to go in the first place. Your ex does not want your explanation. They always want your reaction. When you jade, it gives them both. You do not owe your ex an explanation. You don't owe anyone in the world an explanation for anything, for any of your parenting decisions that you're making during your parenting time. You do not owe them a justification for a doctor that you choose, a schedule change that maybe you needed to put in place, or a boundary that you set of like, I'm only going to check these messages one time a day and I'm only going to respond then. That's for you to have up here, not to tell them. When we use BIFF, we're not explaining, we're simply stating. Reactive communication costs us big, right? Your ex knows exactly what to say to make you react. They live with you, they studied you. Narcissists study people. They have years of data on just you. So they know all of your triggers, all of your fears, all of the bad things that happened to you because you were vulnerable and you shared it with them and they use it as ammunition, right? They use this then strategically in writing because they know that you're going to respond. You shared something about your childhood, right? I shared that I was sexually abused by my stepbrother with both my ex husbands. What did they do? They used that against me to shame me, but also to question my own ability to make the right choice. Because, of course, I had to have let that happen, with someone that was over 10 years older than me. That was my fault, right? Wrong. Every single reactive message that you send, you are giving them a gift. Stop gifting them shit. It shows family court that you are this emotional caregiver who is dysregulated. And what do we know that does, right? Like that attacks your credibility. It's giving your ex also content that they're like in their messages. They can download that on Talking Parents and be like, gotcha. They got the I gotcha moment, not you. And it shifts the focus of the communication from their behavior to your behavior. You have now played the game and they're winning. High conflict people oftentimes are remarkably calm in writing, in person, and testifying in family court, right? I'm going to tell you how that stops in a minute. They've learned, right, that their calmness in these situations gives them authority, gives them credibility. So they're going to try everything that they can in that wheelhouse to provoke you in one way or another, whether it's in writing or in person at the exchanges in court. They're going to present your reaction as, again, evidence into their narrative because you're the unstable one, right? You are unstable. You're not able to be the best fit parent for this child because of your mental and emotional instabilities, right? That's their narrative. They are calm with this expectation that it's going to make you look crazy. So, how do we get them to drop that? How do we get them to actually show their true colors? Adopting indifference. It's the adopting, I don't give a fuck attitude to what they're doing, what they're saying. I'm just going to let them. I'm going to let them violate the custody order. I'm going to let them pretend that they're the parent of the year. I'm going to let them, present themselves in this way. And then they're going to be flustered. They always get flustered when you don't react to them. We see some, like, there's a case that I'm aware of, right? Where healthy parents not reacting to anything. And this ex is like filing one thing a day to try to get them to react in writing with a filing something. She's not doing it. Why? Because he's looking like the crazy one. He is actually building her argument for her in her case. I want you to remember what I say. Sometimes our own silence on things is the strategy. No is a complete sentence. You do not have to answer every single message with a thorough explanation. You can send something that says, got it, received, okay, thanks for the message. Pick one. You don't have to respond to their provocations at all. You don't have to engage with anything that is not directly related to the child itself. The 24-hour rule exists for a reason. I want you to check messages once every 24 hours. When you first read the message, you might be dysregulated. I want you to walk away from it. I want you to put your phone down and I want you to walk away. Now, after you walk away, can you come back and draft a message? I want you to ask yourself, does this response serve my child or does it serve my need to be heard and understood? If it is the second one, you're not going to send that message. You're going to rework it. Now, the most important thing that I'm going to say today is your communication platform is not your documentation system, right? So I need you to hear what I'm saying. Talking Parents, it's a communication tool. Some of you use OFW, you're ordered to use app close, whatever. Again, Talking Parents, I'm a big fan favorite. They create this time-stamped record of what was said. That is their function. They also create a time-stamped record of when the other parent is viewing or not viewing the messages. Okay. Your documentation system is completely separate, right? You're using my documentation kit, you're using my spreadsheet, that documentation log, you're tracking stuff. You're organized in terms of incidents, what are behaviors that you're continuously seeing, dates, times, is it violating the order? How is this impacting the minor child? What did I try to do to resolve it or de escalate? That lives in a completely separate system from Talking Parents, that is separate. You don't even need to put it in the journal entry. Okay, it's separate. The mistake that many people make is thinking that because everything is in Talking Parents, it's automatically documentation. It is not the case. A wall of messages between you and your ex is not organized evidence, guys. This is like raw material. It's raw data that needs to be processed, categorized before it has any kind of meaning or context in family court. Again, this is what Pattern Viewer is good for. Pattern Viewer will do that for you. What goes into your documentation system from your communication platform, like Talking Parents, is this, right? There's a specific message that demonstrates a violation of the custody order. I'm going to download that message and I'm going to link it in my tracker as evidence, right? I'm going to label it, I'm going to link it. I know where it's at. You have time-stamped evidence of no response when a response was required. You're trying to, share with them the need for the child to have an eye doctor appointment because it was recommended by the pediatrician and you're not hearing back. You have joint legal custody. It's a great example. Are there specific admissions or statements that contradict what your ex is claiming in court? That is, you don't have to pull all the messages, pull an example of it. What should not be going into your documentation system? We're not putting every single message thread in its entirety in your documentation. No. We're also not going to give thousands of pages of your messages to a judge in family court because they're not going to read it. Back and forth arguments where you both look bad, because there's going to be those. Don't use it. Messages where you jaded, you overexplained, you reacted emotionally. Don't use it. You can clean up your evidence and your exhibits, and you can even select, are there 3 specific messages that help show a pattern that I've documented? That is infinitely more powerful than 500, 600 pages of message history. Now, what communication with your ex is actually for? Communication with your high conflict co-parent has one purpose and one purpose only: child-focused logistics. So that is pickup times, drop off, medical appointments, school events, schedule changes, emergency information. It is not the place for you to process your feelings. It is not for holding them accountable in real time. You're not going to be able to hold them accountable. And really, family court hasn't either at this point. So just sit with that. It is not for correcting their narrative. It is not for defending yourself against any of their stupid accusations. All of their accusations are their own projection of themselves. It's the closest thing you're ever going to get to a confession of what they've done or what they're going to do, because sometimes they foreshadow. Every message that you send should be able to pass this test. Is it directly related to the child? Is it directly about the child? And does it need to be said right now? If the answer to either question is no, do not send the message. The messages that you send should read as, you know, as if a third party, your attorney, a judge is going to see it tomorrow, right? They may. So it's for an opportunity for you to appear reasonable, to look reasonable. You are reasonable. We want others to see that too. Now, BIFF is not really just a communication style, it's boundaries and it's strategy. Brief in BIFF is, we're talking ideally 1 to 3 sentences. If you need to send up to 5 sentences, send up to 5 sentences. Let's try to keep it to 3. If you go for 3 sentences, I've seen this happen, people tend to be jading. So review that before you send it. We're going to be informative. We're stating relevant facts, nothing else. Not our opinion on facts, but facts. Friendly, where, we're not really warm or apologetic. We're never apologetic, actually. We're not overly familiar with this person. We are neutral, we are professional. The tone of a business email to someone you do not particularly like is friendly. Firm. You are not asking for their agreement, you are stating what is happening. BIFF communication does not invite debate. It doesn't really leave room for argument, and it states things, facts, and it closes. Here's an example of what most people send, right? I know you think I changed the pickup time without telling you, but I actually did tell you on March 3rd and you never responded. And I have been working to, try to get the schedule sorted out with you for months. And I just need you to understand that I am doing my very best here. Is any of that BIFF? No. Also, what's happening there? There's some jading. Let's make that same message a BIFF message. Hey, John, pickup is confirmed for Saturday at 3 p.m. at the same location. Thanks, Bridget. So, same situation. There's a lot of reframing. And what is the output is completely different from the original example. Okay. Your communication with your ex is not about building your case in the communication. That's what your documentation is for, right? You're building your case. You are laying the foundation. You are putting the bricks on brick by brick by brick. It takes time to build cases, it takes time to build up our documentation. Don't get all antsy pants and be like, 3 months after being in front of judge and family court, I need to go back. You're probably going to lose. You got to build up enough evidence. And most attorneys are not going to tell you this because they want your money. I would rather you save your money and use it on your children, find other ways to invest in yourself, to educate yourself, empower yourself, so that you're not so heavily reliant on a family law attorney, because they are not trained in these areas. Every message that you send is a choice, right? So I want you to choose the one that serves you and your child and protects you. Stop trying to make your ex understand. They never will. Stop thinking that no one's ever going to see these messages, right? Or that the judge in the messages are going to be like, oh my God, he's so terrible. Because that doesn't instantly happen. So I leave you with that today. You can immediately begin implementing some of these tools. And the last tip I'm going to give you to help you regulate your nervous system is turn off your notifications on your phone for talking parents, for example. You set the time. You decide when you're going to check that up. Check it once every 24 hours. Respond within that time. Every time those pings come through on your phone, we all know what I'm talking about. You instantly feel anxious. And also, your ex trained you, conditioned you to feel that you immediately needed to respond. If not, therefore, you must be bad. You must not be good enough. I'm going to remind you that you are amazing. You are more than enough. And you don't need to prove it to anyone, much less by responding instantly when a message is received. Take care. Have an amazing day. I'll see y'all again soon. If today's episode resonated with you, make sure you share it with someone who needs it. You can find me on all platforms as Coach Bridget B, or at my website, breakingbadasscoaching.com. If you are ready to work more with me in a session, check out some of my guides, learn how to master your documentation, or join my exclusive community, you can do that through the link that'll be in the show notes. I want you to remember, you have survived this far. You've made it through this episode, and you continue to show up. You're going to continue to survive, and I will see you in the next episode.